people who experience time blindness, it's almost like they're not aware of the time. They might be doing something, and then it's almost like they wake up and tune back in. It's like, oh my gosh, an hour and a half passed, and I thought I would get this done in half an hour. So time blindness can lead to sort of increased emotional intensity at home.
Late again. Panic. Last minute. Having a hard time starting homework. Having a hard time stopping a video game and coming down for dinner. If any of this sounds like your household, it might be something called time blindness. And today we're going to talk more about it and how to better understand it, and parents, what you can do.
And can I just jump in here? The way that Suzanne very calmly described that, late again, not down for dinner, is absolutely the antithesis of what it feels like, I think, to parents when someone in the family, and it could be the parent having time blindness, experiences time blindness. It might sound more like, we're late again. You've got to get your stuff done. Like, wait a minute, you didn't hand that in? That was, but you have to get that done by tomorrow. Did you start? So it sounds more like that. Suzanne's just very chill today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's the way I started. Just wait.
Yeah.
Just
okay.
wait.
Here we go.
All right. So time blindness, what is it? I mean, I think people may have heard of it, particularly if you're parenting a young person with ADHD. This is a term that you might have heard. Time blindness is really this difficulty feeling time.
Right.
Gauging it and judging it.
Right.
And so for those of you watching, you'll see this. If not, I'm going to describe it. I brought 2 glasses from home today. And so one is, I think, what you would call a highball glass, and one is a lowball glass. And Annalise, if you had to take a guess which one has more water in it, what would you say?
You know, by look, this is counterintuitive. I'm kind of leaning towards mine, which is the lower glass, because it's just wider, and so it appears like it's got a lot in it versus this tall one. But I also could see someone looking at the tall one saying, no, it's got more water. It's taller. So I'm not really sure, honestly, looking at these, which has more water.
Well, brace yourself for the surprise of your life, because I used a measuring cup today. And actually, they're the same amount. Both of them have a cup of water in them, but they look different, right? And they can feel different. Now, a lot of people might be listening to this and be like, yeah, I totally get that. Like, when I'm out having a great time with friends, it's like the night goes by like that. Or those really boring work meetings, those seem to drone on and on forever.
But what's interesting about what you just said there is there's an awareness, right? There's a reflection back to, oh my God, we had so much fun. The night went so quickly. Or, oh, this meeting is droning on, so I'm feeling like this is going on and on. Time blindness, I think, is a little bit different. For people who experience time blindness, it's almost like they're not aware of the time. It's almost like they might be doing something, and then they describe a feeling of like sort of like getting lost or not being aware of how much time has passed. And then it's almost like they wake up and tune back in. It's like, oh my gosh, an hour and a half passed, and I thought I would get this done in half an hour, right? So it's a little bit different.
Absolutely. And the intensity of it. And so, we find this a lot for people who have ADHD, other types of neurodivergence as well. This comes up a lot. So there's this really impaired ability to kind of feel and gauge time. And then there's also something that Russell Barkley calls temporal myopia. And so it's this like ability or struggle to kind of see things that are more distant in the future and to be able to like plan for them and kind of pace yourself. So it's like this idea that like, okay, if I'm driving down the road and I see the there's a cone in the road right here, it's right in front of me. Great. I jerk the wheel and I move out of the way. And people with time blindness can do that. No problem. But let's say I'm driving and I see that like down the road a little bit, there's a cone on the road. And so I might, without time blindness, start thinking like, okay, should I move? Is there another lane for me to move to?
Should I slow down? Should I put on my signal light?
Yep. What should I do? Let me start planning for it now because I kind of see that coming. It'd be better to have a plan now. Whereas individuals who have time blindness, they know that the cone is down there. They can see it, right? But their brain isn't activating to get them to start planning and taking action. It's kind of fuzzy, abstract. It's like it's not happening until boom, it's right in front of you.
And, in thinking about this in tweens and teens, in the middle and high school years, and certainly into the college years when kids are so much more independent, time becomes really, really important in a way that it wasn't when they were younger.
Yes.
And so we have to have a lot of, thoughtfulness and sympathy for that. If you experience, or if your teenager experiences time blindness, suddenly there are more activities, there are more assignments, there are more requirements and greater expectations that the teenager is going to stay on top of it themselves.
Yeah.
And so it's this kind of, if a younger child experiences time blindness, that still is a problem and still can be frustrating for sure in the family.
Yeah.
But there does tend to be a little bit more parental management and a little less work demands placed on the young person. But as you get older and those independence and the work increase, or just the time that the requirements of your life increased, that interaction, not being able to fully track and experience time with having more demands on your time, can really lead to a lot of stress in families.
Huge amounts of stress. So I want to, we kind of gave these examples, but I want to talk about what it actually looks like and kind of feels like in a family.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so I think of it in a couple of different buckets. One, a teen being late a lot of the time, right? Parents announce to everybody, okay, we're headed out for the day. We're leaving in 10 minutes. And all of a sudden you hear the shower go off.
Oh, yes.
And everyone's like, wait a minute, she's taking a shower right now? Like, there's no way she's going to be able to get ready and in the car in 10 minutes.
So the teen is late, or maybe their stuff is late. The thing they were supposed to do, the thing they were supposed to hand in, the thing they were supposed to bring to the neighbor doesn't happen, right? And so there's the teen being late and their stuff being late tends to lead to a lot of stress and big emotions. So time blindness can lead to sort of increased emotional intensity at home, right?
Hugely. Because first of all, missed opportunities, right? I mean, I've worked with a lot of young people who missed an application for something that was really important to them, missed a job interview, missed paying a bill for something and that got fined, right? So sometimes there's financial consequences.
And it may be with a genuine belief and wish to do the thing. People who experience time blindness are so often misunderstood as not being responsible or being lazy, or they may really have wanted to hand in the application, but they didn't realize that the application had 6 parts to it, and 2 of those parts required signatures of other people, right? Or how long that would take to get it done.
Yeah. Yep.
And so it's also a loss for, if we're talking about a teenager with time blindness, for the teen, right? So not only are they letting other people down and not getting the thing done, but they're also maybe losing out themselves, which is sad and I think often missed.
And then at times getting feedback, well, you'll learn a lesson from this. And they certainly are learning that they are incompetent, frustrating to other people, enraging to other people, like all of
that they can't do it right. Right.
And yet not learning maybe what is causing this or how to work around it, right? So we have all the lateness stuff. And then like you were mentioning those big emotions and reactions. Because if you think about it, can you imagine the panic, right? You really want to do this application and then you find out you needed 2 signatures, right?
Right.
Or you were supposed to bring something for the group project and you realize at midnight that you need your parent to drive you to the grocery store that's closed, right? We see a lot of explosions in young people over panic and stress over these things, right? And then sometimes a lot of like anger, frustration, coming out at parents. And parents are like, whoa, this is on you. Like, it's midnight. You should have told me earlier, which is fair and valid. Like,
which is understandable.
Absolutely.
But is missing sort of, the issue at hand. Right.
Yeah.
And we've used this analogy before, but it's like, if that teenager needed to get out to somewhere and had a big cast on their leg, or had to be in a wheelchair, we'd know that we have to leave extra time and we'd allow for that. It would be very much in the parents', realm of sight. Oh, yeah, there's an issue here that's slowing this person down. But time blindness isn't always in people's awareness or sight. And instead, the assumptions can be made about the teenager, that they're irresponsible or that something else is going on, when really it's a neurological difference. Kind of.
Yep. And the last one I want to mention, because I think this isn't a unique one that not everyone talks about, but is this kind of stuck in waiting mode.
Yes.
And I see this a lot for teenagers when, maybe they have one or two things coming in the day. Like let's say on a Saturday or Sunday, they've got a game later in the day, or they're babysitting 2 hours from then, and they have a ton of other stuff that they need to do. And so a parent reasonably might expect like, okay, you can get your work done before you go to that. But sometimes teens with and adults with time blindness can kind of feel like the gauging of that time before, like they can't quite figure out how to kind of get things in the middle there. And so they wind up doing nothing until that kind of structured thing is happening. And so they kind of feel stuck waiting to get started.
Yeah.
And so then it feels like there's a lot of like misuse of time, right? Like not being able to use the time that they have effectively.
But that misuse of time, or that the perception of misuse of time leads, teachers or, bosses at a summer job to say things like they need to learn to manage their time better. They need to do a better job of, planning in advance and getting here on time, and they need to be more responsible, right? And that messaging that, maybe they're selfish or they're not mature enough or they're, is a little bit of a missed mark. Right.
Yeah.
And just more ways that I think the teenager can feel let down in themselves, but also more emotional.
Yeah. And this can create, I think, for families in particular, a lot of conflict. Like your example about if you broke your leg, like I had an experience a couple of years ago where I went and got my eyes dilated at an eye doctor exam, a yearly exam. And do you know how when you're getting it dilated, like it starts to kind of go blurry. And then after a time period, it's like really like you cannot read things on your phone. I mean, it's virtually impossible. And I got dilated, I got checked or whatever. And as I was leaving, I looked at my phone and I still had like a little bit of vision. And I had a clinical emergency come up. And there was a concern for safety. And I needed to get phone numbers. And I needed, Annalise, when I tell you, because my vision was going and I'm frantically trying to get into my phone to get, and I couldn't, I actually couldn't. The level of panic and stress that arose
that
in
you
me
experienced.
Because I wanted to figure it out and I wanted to read, but my eyes wouldn't work and wouldn't do it, right? And so I see this. I was so flooded emotionally. And I think about that sometimes with young people when they're in my office, that I think they kind of go often in one of two ways, or they go both ways, where they become so flooded and overwhelmed because of these brain differences, right? The lower activity in the prefrontal cortex, the reduced or inconsistent dopamine, right? They become so flooded and overwhelmed with panic. This is where then a lot of times we can see a lot of conflict, at home over this. Parents understandable frustration and kids panic. And then other times I see young people just kind of check out because they're so overwhelmed by it that it's like, whatever, I don't care. I just won't do the thing. I won't turn it in. I won't. And that kind of back and forth, right? And so this is not a character flaw or deficit. I tell young people all the time, like, there is a difference in how your brain is functioning. And I can even prove it to you because we do know that for some people with the use of stimulant medication and those changes that can enact in the brain, that actually time blindness can be significantly reduced in that way. So I can prove to you that like it is a brain difference. You're not just an irresponsible, lazy.
But I love your analogy to the eye dilation example, right? Because ultimately over time, your eyes would return to normal and you could see. But that intention, and I think that is the experience.
And people were waiting for me to call. I mean, I was supposed to be doing something too.
Very important for safety.
Helping people. I was supposed to be making phone calls. I could not find the address of someone.
And the level of stress that put you under. And that's going to be what a teenager is going to feel when they're feeling like other people are, I'm supposed to do something. I'm supposed to be somewhere. I'm supposed to have completed something. And what tension that creates for them on the regular, right?
And your siblings are annoyed with you.
Yep.
Your friends can get annoyed with you. This is where, we think so often about what kinds, young people with ADHD get so much negative feedback over time. And when you think about this, you can kind of see the big wide realm in which that can happen. And so it is so important for people to kind of understand what time blindness is for themselves, for parents, for teachers, because then we can have a little bit more agency to understand where this is coming from. It's not purposeful. It's not intentional. And then what can we do to try to redesign the environment a little bit, help you kind of build some things around you that might make it more likely for you to be able to enact things in a timely manner, right? Like what can we do here?
And I think the first thing we do is really comes from everything that we've been discussing so far, which is engender that understanding, compassion. When you described that eye dilation example, I can really relate to that. I can really relate to how stressed and feel compassion for you.
Yep.
When I sit with teenagers who struggle with time blindness, who really have good intentions to get their schoolwork done, to not stay up every night till 2 a.m, and have their parents upset at them that they're not getting enough sleep. They really intend for that. But then they say, like, I don't know what happened. To be able to have compassion for that and be sort of gentler in our interpretations around that in and of itself is a good start.
Huge start.
Right? So, and then to understand, so they're losing track of time in general, and they're also struggling to plan for it in the future, right? So those two things, coming together, there are some kind of strategies to help in the moment, right?
Yeah.
One, I don't know what you were thinking, but one thing I often, work with teens on is kind of, setting timers or setting alarms and kind of almost making it a game. Like, I'm going to attempt to work on this for whatever, 20 minutes, and I've got this goal, and the timer's going, and that cue of like, okay, and a break can come in 20 minutes, and for some people it might be 10 minutes, right? But just that I'm working against the clock can help bring flush a little bit of that dopamine, like I've got to get that done.
Yeah, like a little urgency, a little rev to competitiveness or something to the system.
Yeah, to kind of challenge yourself into doing that.
Timers are a great idea. I've got a lot of young people that they make me laugh because they'll do a lot like in their room with their Amazon Alexa, or Google or whatever. And they'll name the timers like, remind me to do this in 30 minutes. Remind me that I want to take a shower. In an hour, remind me that I need to do laundry. So that way they don't realize the next morning they have no underpants, right? So like as they're thinking of things, right? Because often what can happen is like you can get diverted.
Sure.
So if they're trying to work on something, they'll have something they can talk into.
Yeah.
Set this, alarm for this amount of time. So then if they feel some relief, like, okay, that thing about doing my laundry or whatever, taking the shower is there, I can let go of it and I can try to bring my focus back to my assignment I'm working on or whatever it is. So timers are great. Clocks, a lot of clocks sometimes can really be helpful.
In every room. Every single room. In the shower, in the, clocks.
Because I have a lot of young people, and I love this idea of, first of all, like letting your mind meander sometimes is wonderful, and we'll get to that. But, and the shower is a great place where a lot of people do that, myself included. But that can turn into a lot of time, which makes you late and makes people mad, but also uses up a lot of hot water and can make people mad for that reason too. So clocks in the shower. Waterproof ones, you can play music, whatever, like that's a really good thing too, so that if you really only have time for the 15-minute shower and it's not going to be a 45-minute let your brain go everywhere, you have it. Some people like those countdown timers instead, so they can kind of visually see it. You can look that up on like Amazon or any store, where it's kind of like a red chunk of time you set it to and then it minimizes over time. Visual calendars. I've worked with a lot of young people and we've bought big wipe erase, like sticky calendars, so we can kind of map things out and have it like more tangible, like off their phone, right, where they can see it.
Yeah.
So just trying in some ways to make time feel a little bit more real and jumping out at you, like taking some of the responsibility out of your own head and kind of putting it on these different objects.
Right. I think too, for a lot of teenagers that experience this, they can just be overwhelmed in general by all of it because there've been so many experiences of time blindness where it hasn't worked out. So, oh no, I have to go home and I have to do this thing again where it's not going to work out and I'm going to stay up till 2 and the paper won't be done and I don't know what happened, and so, sometimes another, thing that I work on using the timers, but even just getting started, I think sometimes what it feels like the starting is going to lead to such a long thing. So another thing I often will set timers to remind to just start work for 5 minutes. We have like a 5-minute rule or a 10-minute rule where it's like, I'm not even saying I'm going to complete this assignment, but I'm going to get into it for 5 minutes. So now it's like, oh, I'm starting. And sometimes if they get started, they can keep going.
Yeah.
In that struggling to plan and start and, get it going, just get into it for 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that can just get a little momentum going.
Yeah, get the wheels starting to
Yep.
turn. Another thing sometimes I'll do with young people, like if they're perpetually kind of showing up late for things, is we'll do a little like time tracking, kind of backing out of time. So I'll talk to them about, okay, what time do you have to be at school, or what time do you have to be at soccer practice? And like, all right, well, it's going to take 5 minutes to walk from the car out to the field. And actually, it probably takes 2 minutes for you to open the trunk and get your cleats out because a lot of times, young people haven't thought about all those things. They're just thinking it takes me 15 minutes to get to the field. So
Yep.
if practice at 3, I'll leave at 2:45. You're going to be late, right? So sometimes we can kind of like backtrack out and think about like each step of the way, which can feel a little painstaking sometimes, but how long do you think that takes? And then it's like, actually, you need to leave 25 minutes before practice.
Right, in order to.
And so sometimes just building up some of that time awareness and kind of planning it out, padding in a little time. Usually it's not helpful to have excessive amounts of extra time.
Sure.
That can kind of backfire, but like, let's always give you like a 5-minute room for error, in case you forget something, which that's the other thing I forgot to mention, right? Is that there's a lot of other executive functions sometimes that impact young people
Sure.
who are neurodivergent. And so things like forgetting something at home or not, can add in a little extra time too. And that can also derail them, even when they've made a really good plan for time. So sometimes like building a little wiggle room.
Yep.
For some error or
Building
missteps.
wiggle room, but also building in some free brain time. Some time, I have so many teens that I work with that really need and benefit from their downtime.
Yes.
Right? Because managing, regulating their energy and attention to do stuff when they lose track of time is really difficult, right? And again, often not being understood, but just getting that sort of free time to kind of be creative or relax their brain or zone out is important to make time for that, so that when they have to regulate it and have to be getting things done, they've had those moments of like those break times.
It feels so good, right?
Yeah.
To have that unstructured, like when they just know, like, okay, Saturday I'm done with my work or my play practice or,
Whatever it is.
by 2:00. And from 2 until I go to bed at midnight, like, I'm off the clock. Like, no, like, I can just kind of do as I feel.
Right.
And that is really recharging, and it's really relaxing and releasing. And to have the permission from themselves and the permission from family members.
If they can understand, which we'd say, oh yeah, go sit on the couch and elevate your leg with ice on it.
Yeah.
And we'd say, please don't move for, 2 hours because that's really slow.
And you don't have to do anything. That's what you need to do.
That's what you need to do. And this is the same thing for the brain, right? To get that, sort of break. Very important for time blindness.
And then one other thing I would add in, because I know we talked a little bit about that, like distance and planning for the future. And so a lot of times I hear interventions in schools and with families, and they're on the right track of chunking larger assignments or chunking larger tasks into smaller things, right? So, okay, you've got a paper due in 2 weeks. How about you give me an outline in 3 days, and then in a week from now, you give me a rough draft. That is a great idea, but for a lot of people with time blindness, that is still too many kind of stop and starts.
Yeah.
And so I just like to talk with young people about sometimes like the more you can kind of touch something, like just like keep tapping it, So, okay, that thing is due, but you got to read a book for it. So like, let's read a little bit every day before bed, or let's read. So it's like you're never quite, even like carry the book in your bag all day. Like you're never quite getting rid of that assignment. Like it's kind of swimming in your more immediate zone more regularly. So it's not like you do the one thing, you wait for the teacher fee, it goes away. Like let's just keep tapping it, keep it close.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Of course, we're not physicians, but certainly stimulant medication, which is often prescribed for ADHD, can help, right? It helps to, sort of flush dopamine a little bit, which really brings people a little more in contact with time. And so that is another option to speak to a physician about if you think that this may be going on.
Yeah. And if maybe you're even trying some of these other things and it's not helping and not working, and the level of frustration, right? I think it's really helpful for young people and families to know that there are a lot of options,
Yes.
right? So, to not lose hope, there's a lot of things that we can try to do to help. And sometimes we try one thing and it doesn't work, but a few weeks later, it swings back and it helps a little bit, So let's not give up. There's a lot of things we can do. If one thing doesn't work, let's try another option and see what we can get going here.
Are we close to our what now?
I think we are.
I'd like to jump in with a what now. Everything we've described here, certainly the most important in my mind is understanding and compassion.
Yeah.
Really understanding what's going on and not mislabeling what's happening for someone. But I also just, if this is a picture of something going on in your house, either for yourself or for your teenager, experiencing time blindness and having difficulty getting things done or tracking or whatnot, keep in mind, even if you use some of the interventions that we've discussed, or your teenager tries the timers and it doesn't work quite right, or it's helpful to some degree, they may never get to where someone who doesn't experience time blindness is. There are all types of people there, and time blindness can bring incredible amounts of creativity, thoughtfulness. It can bring different gifts. So the goal is not to make someone with time blindness not experience it ever, or it's more to help them cope with it like you would cope with a broken leg, but that this is a part of how their brain works. They can understand it and adapt to it. You can understand it and adapt to it, but they may never present like your other child who maybe gets everything in on time or has a lot of anxiety and is thinking all the time about what's coming up. That's not what we're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
We're just looking for everyone to cope a little better, understand each other better, and feel more effective.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that.
You're welcome, Suzanne.
All right. A lot of people are experiencing a lot of different things, and we don't always have the time to talk about it out loud with each other. So it can be helpful sometimes to share things like this with another parent or a family member that you think might benefit from listening to this. And we would appreciate it too, because it's why we're here and we're doing this. We share this information in our offices kind of one-on-one, and we hope to share it with more people. So please share this episode. And if you enjoyed it, please rate and review. That really helps us get the message out as well.
Yeah. We appreciate you. Have a great week. And now a quick word from our lawyers. The Parenting Pair podcast is designed for informational and educational purposes only. Do not rely on the information presented in this podcast as a substitute or replacement for professional psychological or medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you have concerns about you or a family member's well-being, please contact a licensed mental health professional or physician.